What's up guys, and welcome to a new video. So today we're going to cover my in-game Bone Spear Necromancer. Once again, in Season 3, Bone Spear reigns supreme as the overall strongest Necromancer build. This build is able to handle all content currently in the game with no issues whatsoever, without having to mix and match gear pieces. Even though this build does not require any uber uniques, they would definitely be a nice addition. In this guide, we will cover everything in depth, from the skills used to the best Paragon Board setup. Timestamps will be down below, so feel free to jump ahead at any time. Also, there will be Nightmare 100 Vault gameplay at the end if you want to go ahead and check that out. If this video ends up being helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave me a comment down below. I'm quickly approaching 10,000 subscribers, and I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, let's get right into it. Alright, starting off in the skills that we use in the build. Up top, we actually don't use any generator skills. We don't need a basic skill with this build. At the point we're at, we have no problem with essence and getting essence back, so we've strayed completely away from that. Obviously, we're going to use Bone Spear. This is our bread and butter, our major damage dealer right here. Right here, we're going to use Blood Mist. This is going to be our get out of jail free card, basically making it to where we can go immune and get out of sticky situations. We use Bone Prison. We actually get a lot of bone essence back from Bone Prison, and we also make enemies vulnerable with Bone Prison, so it just works out really nice with the build. We use Corpse Explosion. We don't actually ever cast this ourselves because of the ring that we have. This basically is going to give us damage and essence back every time it's used. So it just overall helps our build greatly. Corpse Tendrils, obviously this is going to be to pull enemies into a group, make them vulnerable, stun them, slow them, just good overall. So, and then last but not least, we take our ultimate skill, Bone Storm. We use this at, in tougher situations for damage reduction and more base crit chance. Alright, we'll go ahead and jump into the gear and aspects used on the build really quickly, guys. Be sure to get your resistances capped off, really important, get them up to 70%. Starting up top in the helmet. Now, you can see I have the shako on. For the boss clips in the beginning, I did not use shako. I actually used Deathless Visage, which, obviously if you don't have shako, you don't have to have one. You can use that. Deathless Visage. It has a bunch of great stats. Critical strike damage with bone skills, physical damage, maximum essence, and damage reduction. And then also Bone Spear leaves behind echoes as it travels, that explode, doing damage themselves, which actually help to proc the lucky hit, so we're getting more essence back, actually generating more essence using this helmet. And really, against the bosses, like I said, I use the Deathless Visage, and I think overall it's more damage, because we get damage from essence, and then it has physical and critical. So I think it outweighs the +4 to skills when it comes to damage. The shako is a little bit better defense-wise. It gives us a little bit more cooldown, resource regeneration, and obviously maximum life. So, but if you don't have the shako, you can just put that on, and you'll be good to go. Down into the chest piece right here. So you want to look for total armor, whatever resistances you need, and damage reduction. Try to get as much damage reduction as you can on your chest if you have your resistances other places. The aspect on here, guys, you want to go with the eluding aspect. Now, the reason that we use this, it's another way that we have unstoppable. And you can see right there, becoming injured while crowd controlled grants you unstoppable for 4 seconds. So this way, if you're crowd controlled, your life runs too low, you get unstoppable, you're able to move, and you can get out of that sticky situation. It does have a 20-second cooldown, but you don't find yourself using that this often with this build. As for the gloves right here, you want to go pretty much with the same that I have on the gloves. You want to get base crit chance. You can get up to 12%, try to get that as high as possible. The up to 5% chance to restore primary resource on lucky hit. That actually helps us to keep our resources capped off, so definitely want to find that. And then 4 rings to Bone Spear. That's, a given. We got to have that. Now, in place of the intelligence, you could have lucky hit chance. Intelligence obviously is going to get you more damage. As you can see, intelligence increases our damage and resistances on this build. And then for the aspect, you want to go with the aspect of Serration. You can see right there, the Ossified Essence key passive also increases the critical strike damage of your bone skills by 1% per essence above 50, up to 35%. Now, I actually have a 40 roll I need to put on there, but, up to 40% multiplier right there in the gloves. So that's a really good aspect. Down here into the pants, this is a no-brainer. You want to have the Juggernauts aspect. This just gives us a ton of armor. You can see right here, I have 8.5k. In dungeons, I have around 15k armor, or just under 15k, and you only have to hit 13.5 for the 154 monster level. And then on your pants, get total armor and whatever damage reductions you can get. Maximum life is good also. Now, real quick, you will see that I have damage reduction while injured. And that gives us a nice chunk. So anytime that I think we go to like 35% or below life, we get a huge chunk of damage reduction. And I also got that on my boots down here. You can see damage reduction while injured also. This is a good way to stay alive. This is a good way to make it to where you can survive through those heavy one-shots. I mean, you might be way low on your life, but you won't die. You know what I mean? You can take those one-shots pretty good. So I would say on your pants and boots, definitely try to get the damage reduction while injured. It helps quite a bit against the one-shots. Down here into the boots, guys, now you want to obviously get movement speed, and then you want to get 2 of your resistances, you know, high rolls on those. And then, like I talked about, the damage reduction while injured is just awesome. Like I said, I mean, that's going to keep you alive quite a bit, you know, especially in those tier 100 dungeons. You can take way heavier hits when you have a bunch of that damage reduction. And then for the aspect, we're going to go with the Wind Striker aspect on there. 15% movement speed after we crit strike, which is pretty much always with this build. Really quickly, you want to get rubies in all your gear for maximum life. Down here, you want to get the emeralds for critical strike damage. And then over here, just, you know, cap your resistances off. And if they're already capped off, then get skulls for more armor. Down into the weapon. Now, really quickly, I have the two-handed scythe. Now, technically for damage on this build, you want to go with a two-handed sword like this, because you get the implicit of critical strike damage. You see the 52.5%. Now with the scythe, you get 343 life back on kill. I kind of like having this, and this is what I used like through all the clips and everything in the beginning and in the dungeon at the end. I like getting that life back on kill. It kind of keeps my life topped off, and I'm not using potions hardly ever, to be honest. So, you know, it's up to you. If you want to go with the sword, you can get a little bit more damage, and, you know, with the critical strike damage. And this has a little bit faster attack speed. Base attack speed has 1.0 attacks per second. This has 0.9, as you see. So as far as damage goes, the sword's a little bit better, but I chose to go with the scythe for the life on kill. You know, it's a quality of life to me. So on here, you want to get maximum intelligence. Maximum stats is good, or I'm sorry, all stats is good. Critical strike damage, you can see on here I have a ton of it. Core skill damage isn't too bad. Damage to distant isn't too bad. Vulnerable damage isn't too bad, but definitely try to at least get the intelligence, and all stats is pretty good. And then like a bunch of crit, as much as you can get. For the aspect right here, guys, you want to go with the splintering aspect. You know, basically you can see right there, Bone Spear's primary attack makes enemies hit beyond the first, vulnerable for 3 seconds. And then it basically makes your shards do a ton more damage. So you definitely want to get that aspect on there. Up into the amulet. Now, I actually found a really nice amulet for the build. You want to try to get movement speed, essence cost reduction, 3 ranks to Avulsion. Avulsion, you get a 15% multiplier with 3 ranks to that. That's like the one that you definitely want to look for. And then, you know, I have the damage reduction from distant enemies. You know, that's awesome. Right there, you could get other things, you know, more damage or whatever else you wanted to, but I'd definitely say try to go for the movement speed, essence cost reduction, and the ranks to Avulsion, really important. Then you want to get the aspect of Grasping Veins. See right there, gain 30% increased critical strike chance for 6 seconds when you cast Corpse Tendrils. And, you know, we're auto-casting Corpse Tendrils because of our ring right here that we'll go into in a second all the time. So we're always getting 30% base crit from that right there. And with this build, I think we're sitting at like 90% crit pretty much at all times, somewhere between 80 and 90%, especially when we, you know, cast our Bone Storm. So, you know, our base crit's just through the roof. And then you see also you deal 60% multiplicative bonus critical strike damage to enemies damaged by Corpse Tendrils. And Corpse Tendrils has a huge area of effect, so enemies are like always damaged by it. So you're getting a lot of base crit and damage from this aspect. Right here, we're going to come into the ring of the Sacrilegious, where Sean drops this. I mean, it just drops like candy. It drops everywhere. I got a really good roll on it. I have actually a perfect roll, which I've never even seen, you know, for the Raised Skeleton, Corpse Explosion, and the Corpse Tendrils, which is awesome. But this is just going to cast our Corpse Explosion and Corpse Tendrils at all times for us. You know, it makes the build a lot easier. We don't have to worry about it. And then it has good stats, lucky hit chance, maximum life, essence, you know, 2 to all corpse skills, just great overall. And then to this ring down here, guys, we want to get the aspect of Exposed Flesh. You can see right there up to a 10% chance to generate 50 essence when hitting a vulnerable enemy, and that's obviously on lucky hit. But as you can see, Bone Spear has a pretty high lucky hit chance at 56%. And then it has all the shards coming off of it. And then on top of that, like if you're using the Deathless Visage, you know, it leaves the echoes, which can also proc lucky hit. So this is just boosting our essence up like all the time. I got lucky and got a perfect roll on it right there. For your stats on the ring, you want to get base crit chance, whatever damages you can find, but you also want to try to get resource regeneration and maximum essence. On this build, maximum essence turns into damage. So you want to definitely get maximum essence anywhere that you can. Now, really quickly, if you wanted to go with even more damage with the build, instead of running the Ring of Sacrilegious, you could run another ring with the Edgemaster's aspect on it, which would get you more damage, more base crit, you know, more essence. But then you're going to be auto-casting your Corpse Tendrils and your Corpse Explosion. But I mean, you could even mow bosses down even quicker. I just chose not to do it. We're doing plenty of damage to do everything right now as it is. And it makes it where I don't have to worry about casting that stuff. You know, I only cast that stuff if I want to. You know, I'll cast Corpse Tendrils myself on top of the ring casting it sometimes. But overall, it just makes the build a lot easier. But if you wanted to go that route, you could use another ring like this with the Edgemaster's aspect on it. Alright, now we'll briefly go over the construct. Down here we're going to get Tempest, Breaking Support, Initiative, and Fortify. Tempest basically attacks enemies with an electrocution. Breaking Support knocks out enemies' barriers completely, which is awesome, and makes them vulnerable. Initiative makes it to where your construct is like around you more often. It teleports up to enemies and teleports up to you to cast its abilities. If you ever notice, you know, the construct just sometimes will be nowhere in sight. But with this, he's next to you more often. And then Fortify, this along with Fortify in our skill tree makes it to where we're almost constantly fortified, so we're getting nice damage reduction because of that also. Over here we're going to get Flash of Adrenaline. This is going to obviously give us a 20% multiplier to our damage. And then we have Duration, Tactical, and Safeguard. With Duration and Tactical, it makes it to where Flash of Adrenaline is up at all times. And then Safeguard right here just gives us more damage reduction. As for the Book of the Dead, when it comes to Skeletal Warriors, we're going to sacrifice the Skirmishers for 5% base crit. For the Mages, we're going to go ahead and sacrifice the Shadow for 15 more essence. And then as far as the Golem goes, we're going to sacrifice the Iron Golem for 30% multiplier to our critical strike damage. Now we'll briefly go over the skill tree. Up top, you obviously have to choose a basic skill. You got to get 2 points up here, so just put them wherever you want, but we don't use a basic skill anymore. We basically just want to get down to the core skills. In the core skills, obviously, we're going to max out Bone Spear, run it back to Enhanced, and then to Paranormal. 3 into Unliving Energy, obviously maximum essence is damage for this build. And then 3 into Imperfectly Balanced, you know, more damage, 9% multiplier. 3 into Hued Flesh, we want to create as many corpses as we possibly can. Down here into Corpse and Macabre, we're going to get 1 into Bone Prison, back into Enhanced, and to Ghastly. You know, Bone Prison is just awesome. It's another way that we're making enemies vulnerable, getting us essence back, trapping enemies. It's like a protective barrier. You can also cast this like around yourself to keep enemies away from you if you're like low on HP or whatever. And then, you know, on top of that, with the new season, you know, you can run through Bone Prison. Before you get stuck on it. Now you can just run clearly like back and forth through it. Really nice. Right here now, I do have Shako equipped right now. If you didn't, you want to get 1 point into Corpse Explosion. But if you have Shako, obviously you don't have to put any points into it. Right here we have Grim Harvest. Consuming a corpse generates 6 essence. Now, also guys, I would take 1 point out of here to put it into Corpse Explosion if you don't have Shako. And then also 1 point out of here to put into Blood Mist. We also use Blood Mist as our get out of jail free card. So, you know, just take 2 points out of here, 1 for here and here if you don't have Shako. You're going to run down to Fueled by Death, 9% multiplier anytime that we consume a corpse, which we're constantly doing. We're going to come down into our curses. We don't actually take any curses, but down here you want to get Death's Reach. You deal 12% multiplicative increased damage to distant enemies. Down here into Corpse and Macabre. 1 into Corpse Tendrils, back into Enhanced and to Plagued, so that we're making enemies vulnerable. Corpse Tendrils is just really strong. Slows, makes enemies vulnerable. Stuns enemies for 3 seconds. Great for the build. 3 into Necrotic Carapace. Whenever a corpse is foreign, which is always, we get 45% for 6% of our maximum life. Down into Serration. You want to get everything right here. This is all great for, you know, Bone Necromancers. Right here, this is boosting up our base crit. Compound Fracture, you know, more 15% multiplier because we're always critting. Vulsion, 30% multiplier with the 3 rings from our amulet. And then Rapid Ossification, every 100 essence you spend reduces cooldowns of your bone skills by 1.5 seconds. Into the ultimate skills, like I said before, we're taking Bone Storm for the base crit chance and the damage reduction, which is up decently often. Over here, we're going to get Standalone, 18% more damage reduction since we don't have any minions. And then over here, Memento Mori, making it to where our sacrifices are boosted by 60%. And then down here, this is a no-brainer for our key passive. We want to get Ossified Essence. Your bone skills deal 0.5% increased damage for each point of essence you have above 50 upon cast. We're running without any elixirs, I think at like 179 maximum essence right now. And then our current bonus is 64.5%. So that's a nice multiplier for the build. Alright guys, last but not least, we will jump into the Paragon board really quickly. There will be a link down in the description if you want to check this out over on Mobalytics. Also guys, don't forget to get your glyphs up to 15 and eventually to 21, but at least 15 for the bigger radius. So down here in the starter board, we're going to come up, we're going to grab Prime for damage and maximum life. We get Resilience over here for all res and life. In the first one, we're going to put Sacrificial, 10% multiplier because of the additional bonus. Up here, you're going to get Preservation and Knowledge. The next board that we're going to come into will be the Bone Graft board. So you're going to run over here. Obviously, you're going to get in tune for critical strike damage with bone skills. You definitely want to get Bone Graft. You can see right there, hitting enemies with bone skills increases your damage by 1% of your maximum essence by 2 or 8 seconds. Stacks up to 8%. Nice multiplier, and it increases our maximum essence. Like I said, get entombed. Right here, we're going to get Reinvigorate, maximum essence and essence on kill. We want to get as much essence as possible. Now there is more essence on kill right here that you could get if you wanted to. Take a couple points out somewhere else if you're having essence problems. But with this build, I don't need it, especially like in dungeons and stuff. It's not a problem whatsoever. Come up here for calcified critical strike damage with bone skills and bone skill damage. Grab all this around it. Right here, we're going to go ahead and throw essence. The additional bonus, we get 22% multiplier against enemies that are not healthy. So that's, below, I think, 85%. And then a bunch of crit strike damage, obviously. Right here, we're going to get Shaper of Bone, bone skill damage, and intelligence. Next board, we come into a Scent of Death with at least 2 corpses nearby. You gain 15% damage reduction. With no corpses nearby, you get 15% multiplier. So it's just good, both ways. Right here, we're going to take Ruin for damage to healthy and critical strike damage. Up here, we're going to throw Imbiber. Now, this is actually going to boost our overall damage quite a bit. And in our tooltip, we're always healthy. So we're getting a huge damage boost, 106% right there. Want to get Death Marked for... now, we're basically taking this for the intelligent, or, to get over to the node over here for the willpower. Obviously, we cross over this. It gives us damage to injured, which is below, I think, like 35%. Not too big of a deal, but we definitely want to get all of the willpower and radius, which we've done, to get the maximum benefit out of Imbiber. Over here, we get Preservation for armor and intelligence. Down here, we're going to get Corrective for critical strike damage. And then the next board that we come into is the Flesh Eater board. Consuming 5 corpses grants 40% multiplier for 6 seconds. I mean, this is pretty much always up, especially with our Ring of Sacrilegious, always casting Corpse Explosion, running through dungeons and stuff. We get this massive multiplier at all times. So we're going to come over here. We're going to get Stifle for damage to injured and critical strike damage. Flesh Eater. Down here, we're going to throw Exploit. Basically, our additional bonus makes it to where we're, hitting vulnerable enemies at all times and getting a boost up to 10%. Then we want to get all the dex and the radius for vulnerable damage. And then right here, we take Targeted for damage to elites. And then all this around here. And then the final board that we're going to come into will be the Blood Begets Blood board. We're going to come up, we're going to grab Invigorated, damage while healthy. Over here to Aggression for overpower damage and, flat damage, and more flat damage around here. And then last but not least, we're going to take Gravekeeper. Basically, we get this for the additional bonus. You deal 2% increased multiplicative damage up to 12% for every close corpse, so it's just even higher of a damage multiplier. That's pretty much it for the Paragon board, guys. If you want to go ahead and stick around, there will be Tier 100 Vault gameplay right now. Really appreciate all you guys. Like I said, I'm coming up on 10K subs. If the video has been helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. And leave me a comment down below. Let me know how your season's going. Anything maybe you would change on the build, or if you got any questions, I'll get back to you. Anyways, thanks for watching.